Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel where I go fishing so you don't have to. Today is gonna be a different video. I am gonna show you again a little bit of 3D modeling and how I created out of these baits. Wait, I'll show you one that is similar. I took one of the crankbaits that we actually always made, and because it really sinks well and I like its action. I don't know how it is yet when it's in the river itself because I couldn't test it yet, but how it sinks and how that performance is, I really enjoyed. I actually thought of creating, I dropped that, a split bait type of the same lure, and I just wanted to see myself how easy it is to create a swim bait out of a normal crankbait if you have got the existing model already. So I found it actually quite easy. It's not too many steps, and you can actually change up any bait that you have already and you've designed. And if you want to have a little bit of tail action like these ones, you can actually just change that, and I'll show you today how I did it. You can do it on different ways if you want to bend your own hard way and not use these splits that I use. And we'll get right into it, and I'll put you guys on my screen and I'll show you step for step how you can create it and how I did it, and then you can print it, and I'll show you guys what the print looks once it's finished, and we'll see each other straight away on the screen. So see you soon. In our 3D drawing software, so as you guys know, this is the bait that we've been working with. I always design the lip slot in already and also a weighting chamber itself, and I also always design in the air pocket already beforehand, that we can create a hollow bait, that we have the swimming action that we want. And today we will be redoing this e-pocket, so I will actually show you, I prepared it already that I don't drag this video out too long, because I just want to keep it short, because if you've got your bait already and everything, we'll go through these steps itself. And I'll go on home, and I've prepared this bait for us. The first step is always to duplicate your lure, that you don't mess with the original, and you can just change up things. So as you guys can see, we have got our sketch of the lead hole that is still the same as in the last time. Then we have also got a plane that is also the same, that is for the air pocket itself. And now the magic happens, because we actually are just going to be focusing on how to create this slot. So the first thing I actually did is I went over and said, okay, I designed a slot where I wanted to be roughly, one can try different sizes of the tail itself, and I actually made it 1 mm thick and over the whole entire bait, that once we go out of the sketch, I actually dragged up the plane and just cut our bait in two halves. The next step was going to be actually creating these grooves. You will have to adapt to the screws that you are going to be using. So I am using screwlets. They are eye screws. The outer diameter of the screw eye is 4 mm, and the thickness is around 1 mm. So that we've got a little bit of space, because we know that the paint is coming, and we've got the paint, we've got the clear coat and everything, that you still got a bit of place that the screw can actually move freely. I designed a 2mm slot that I would even bump it up maybe a little bit more to maybe 2.5, that you've just got a bit more room, because I actually have to work out the clear coat. Once I am finished clear coating the bait, I actually have to drill out these slots that the bait moves freely. If you don't want to do that, just make those slots a bit bigger, but you also get a bit more wiggle room of the tail. So just keep that in mind. And also measure how deep you would like your screws to be in. My screws are around the length of 10mm, and the eye bit of the screw is around about 4, like I said before. So with screwing it in to the tail section right here and putting a pin from the top, because you're not allowed to forget, if you put in a pin from the top, you will have to drill it quite in the center, and then it should go quite well. So that's how I actually designed those slots. The next step was actually contouring these curves, which is nothing special. You just have to make sure that everything's nice and rounded off. Otherwise, you'll have to be sanding down everything, which is annoying. I find the sanding down of a bait, that you make sure that all the surfaces are clean after your 3D print, takes most of the time, and the airbrushing itself is actually quite quick in comparison. So the next thing we will actually be focusing on is the air pocket, because as I said in the beginning of the video, when we looked at this bait without the split body, we had a air pocket going through the whole lure, which makes it a lot easier because we actually have to do 2 sketches. So I actually took the spline function of the program and just outlined, because I know that there is the air pocket, the lead pocket right here, and it goes to these 2 dots. So I leave a little bit of material right there. It's just a nick that the lead and UV resin doesn't run into my air pocket that I'm designing, and I otherwise fill out right around here. I also know that there's a lip section right here where I plant my lips in, so I also go ahead and go over that. And then there's an interesting thing that I started doing now, because I didn't do it right at the beginning when I started designing the lures, is I make a little bit of a area with full material for where the screw for your line tie will be, that you actually have got full material where the screw is in, that you have got a even stronger connection to the lure. And then you just outline everything, and you can leave the sketch and do exactly the same for the tail part. You see this is a bit unformed, so I would go a bit back still, also leaving some full material right here for when we put the screw in. And then I would say we are quite happy with those 2. Then you can actually blend out your body 1, and you can say this is our sketch, and you can actually create a hollow section like that. You subtract those 2 in the next step. I know that it has to be 4 thick, because I calculated that at the beginning, that if I set this plane into the bait, I would have to do a 4mm pocket right here, that it is symmetrical, and you do that for this part of the bait, and then you also have got him back. Then you go ahead and do that for this pocket, and you say 4 millimeters, and then you can blend the next body in again, and then you can easily use the subtract function, and you can see that we will be taking out that part. Purple is the material that stays, blue is the material that actually gets taken off, and then you can go ahead and do that, and then you can also do that for the front section. No, that was the wrong. For the front section, and you can see that we miss out all the pockets that we have. We've got full material right here, full material right here, full material here where we put in the screw, and we can finish that, and then you are actually ready for exporting it for your 3D printer. So this is actually a very easy way that you can take an existing lure design you have and create something like a swim bait, because you could also go ahead and split this one again. You would just have to make then 3 sketches for the ear pockets, which is really cool. You can play around quite a lot, which I enjoy, and I'm going to do more in this direction as well because I like the swim baits. And now I'm still going to show you, once you export the file for your 3D printer and you put it into the slicing software, we will head over straight away. We have got our lure standing right here. And the next thing you will have to do is you will have to perform a cut that you have 2 separate parts. So we'll set a plane for the cut right here, and then we can say perform the cut. Then you have got your model cut into 2 halves, and you can then go ahead and say you would like this to be at 90, and then you can move them together that the printing head doesn't have to move as much. And then we are actually in the region of setting your strengths. So I actually like to go rectilinear, and I like to set it on all of them. I like to do more than 2 wall loops, and I also like to do a infill density of 75. These values are just experimental. If you do your lure, you'll have to see what works best and maybe do a float test in your sink once you've 3D printed and built it, that you know how it performs, and then you can still go on here and we say we would like a outer brim only, brim width, and we also still, I just have to check with support. You can enable the support. I like to do tree support, and I would on the build plate only. Once you've got all your settings finished, you can slice the plane, and you can actually see that our lure looks exactly like this. And if you go down, you can see our ear pockets and how the lure gets built up. So everything looks fine. You see this is a very, very thin layer right here, but it does work quite well in the print, and we don't need it to be thicker. So once you've done that, you can actually go on print the plane and send it to your printer, And once you've done that, I'll show you guys in a moment. I'll start the print quickly and we'll get it printed and I'll show you guys how it looks. So as you can see, I sent the file to my 3D printer and it has started to print our lure blank, and I will be taking you with, I don't know, for the whole print process because it takes 27 minutes, so I will speed this up, and then once it's done I'll meet you guys back in the outro where I show you the lure blank we actually work with and how the print turns out. So our 3D print is nearly finished. You can actually maybe hear that it is closing the air pocket in the bigger half of our lure blank, and once it closes it, that whistling actually stops, and now we are nearly done. So our 3D print is finished. Now I'll let it cool down a little bit before actually taking it off. But as you guys can see, we get the finished sound, and I'll get you guys back for the outro in just a second. So welcome back to the outro. We have finished our 3D print, and as you saw during the printing process, it looks like this, and you get two halves that you can then separate very easily. You just break off the part that was on the printing plate, and then you have got your two halves that you can sand and join with the joint that I have now chosen, so with the two split eyes and a middle pin. I might try to actually change that up once, and I would like to do a split bait or a swim bait with hardware that I bend myself, that I've actually got the two links joint already, and that we then just glue in the two joints into the lure itself, because then you don't have to make these cutouts, so you save another step yourself. So you just have to round off the edges once you cut the bait, and you also have got, you don't have the problem with the joint actually opening, because as we saw in one of the videos where I did the strength test, the problem with the split rings that I use, or the eye screws, is actually that where the screw, I'll show you one of the screws, where the screw itself is bent and joins, it isn't interlocked. So if you bend your own hardware, you actually take a wire and wind the two ends together, so you don't have the problem that that can open itself anymore. So the joint is a lot stronger. I just don't know how it would perform and how the gluing in works and how strong the joint to the 3D print is anymore, but I might do a video where I test that. So if you're interested in that, maybe drop it in the comments and we'll try one of those baits and actually compare maybe the strength of one of these to a other joint. And otherwise, if you haven't seen the video where I create this bait, I also made a video where I take you guys through the process of actually designing the lure itself. I will maybe drop it up here or there, and you can check that out, because that is the first step before splitting it. So this is like a follow-up video that you can actually create a swim bait out of one of your crankbaits that you have already existing as a 3D model. So if you're interested in videos like that, drop it in the comments. I'm always happy to know what you guys like watching. If you are more interested in the drawing process, or if you want to see more of the airbrushing and how that develops, I'll see what you guys like more and I'll try to focus on that. And otherwise, I wish you a good one, And thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see each other for another video. I'll do a bait build. I don't know what yet, but I think it's going to be a airbrushing tutorial. And so keep tuned, and we'll see each other. Keep on fishing. Cheers.